Ladies and gentlemen, it's 9 p.m. on Thursday night. It's Crawlspace's Gossip Pod. What's going on? I am Tim here tonight, as always, with Lance. Lance, what's up?
Well, the bells have tolled 9 times from the town square here in just north of the revolutionary city of Boston.
Okay.
Good to be here.
And we are being joined by Crawlspace Media Network All-Star, Rebecca Sebastian. What's going on, Bex?
Hi, you guys. I didn't plan an intro. I have no regional accent. I have nothing, but I am so happy to be here.
Well, wow. you know what you do have. You've got your dialogue poster there in the background.
Oh, this whole thing?
that thing's strategically placed.
Oh, I thought that was much bigger, like on the floor back there.
This is tiny. Look,
it's like an optical illusion.
Oh, that was weird. I thought the same thing.
Yeah, no, this is actually just like a table topper with a QR code, so people can go right to the podcast when I'm at like an event or whatever.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Well, if you're watching this live right now on Thursday night at 9 p.m. On Twitter, on Facebook, or YouTube, why don't you click the link and toggle your butt over on to Get Vocal?
Yeah.
Sign up, interact right here, because there's a whole chat room, a group of people interacting, like-minded people who love the show. They're here to talk to Bex. They want to talk true crime.
Yeah. And whatever else, you know, if you are watching on Twitter, you don't even have to interact here. You can just pop on over and, you know, type some messages in there. You don't have to get on screen. No pressure.
Yeah. And if you just want to watch, you just want to be an observer, and that's fine. I get that. Maybe you want to stay on Twitter.
Some
Facebook,
people just like to watch.
Or YouTube. Hey, that's fine too. But you know what? Still, you should toggle your butt over to Get Vocal, though, because the chat room here is going, and it's hilarious. There's a whole separate conversation that happens every Thursday night that you want to be a part of, okay?
Yeah. So it's the story within the story.
Yeah.
Within the story. Behind the curtain.
Yes.
Yeah. And I will say it's not just one conversation. There's several conversations. If you are a budding psychologist and you are looking for some mental thought experiment, come on over here and just observe the conversation and take notes. And you can probably write a complete dissertation on this one message board tonight.
Facts.
Easily.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Easily. So Rebecca Sebastian of Dialogue, how are you tonight?
I'm good. It's late, and it's been Thursday. It's been a busy week. I'm so excited to talk to you guys. I am overtired and overworked a little bit. That is how I'm feeling, but try not to complain.
Oh, you took time out to join us, so thank you very, very much for doing that. I mean, you've been begging us forever.
I know. And tell me, on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the coolest thing on the screen right now, how cool is the glowing blue moon back there?
It's blowing my mind. It sets the mood for today's conversation. I think tonight we're going to get into like some fun stuff, and that is giving me all the good spooky kind of galaxy vibes. So good choice. I like it.
Yeah.
Before we really get into it, because we have some UFO talk, we have some cult talk. I just saw that our buddy Brock just joined. Guys, as much positive energy out to half the country that is in the path of Sally right now.
Yeah.
It's good to see Brock. Also, Jared from Even the Podcast is Afraid. His house has lost power. It's just it's really pretty nasty out there. So lots of positive vibes their way.
And our friends in the West too for the fires.
I was going to get to that. Like,
oh, sorry,
half the country's on fire. The other half, or 40%, is getting hit by hurricanes. And we're in New England, and we're like, oh, it's getting cold.
I know. Is it pumpkin latte time?
I know, right? Yeah. Where's my pumpkin latte?
Yeah, it's really wild that's all happening, and we're still in the middle of a pandemic. On top of it all, it seems really cruel and unusual.
Oh.
It sure does.
We'll get through it.
Yeah. So best wishes out to everyone in the country, or everywhere really, who is dealing with some issues out there, weather related or other. But tonight we wanted to talk a little bit about some UFOs. There was a story that broke on some kind of UFO message board, UFOsightengsdaily.com. It's a pretty fringy site, I'm going to be honest.
Sounds reputable.
But it's okay. Hey, a news article on a site is a news article on a site. You got to make sure it's legit, though. And then when you look at this one, you find out that it actually is a Goodyear blimp. It wasn't an unidentified flying object. It was a Goodyear blimp, and it has been identified. So mystery solved on that one.
Okay, so 6 minutes in, we just found this out, guys. We asked Rebecca to be on, and then our good friend Morph sent us the link. Because he's obsessed with Bigfoot and UFOs, and he sent us the link. So we're like, okay, Rebecca, we're going to talk about UFOs because this just broke. Many sightings over New Jersey. And then what was it, like an hour before we got on here? It was discovered to be a Goodyear blimp.
Well, I actually didn't hear that. So this is breaking news for me. I was fully prepared with my theories, my conspiracies, my thoughts. But mostly I just feel like New Jersey did not disappoint in those videos. How much do we love those witnesses with their phones? They're so good.
It's especially funny when you know that they're actually filming a Goodyear blimp.
Oh yeah, and how angry they got when people were like honking because it was causing like safety issues. And she's like, "Excuse me, we're looking at a UFO. You could go around me." I'm like, "Oh my gosh!"
Yeah,
like she was not having it. So that I was there for just the New Jersey essence. Like that is my New Jersey, and that is my New Jersey.
I mean, I do
the Garden State.
I do feel like there's lessons to be learned from this, though, aren't there? Like, what is that? Like,
groupthink.
Right. There's something at play.
Herd
right?
mentality.
Yeah. Everyone's like, they're looking. I gotta look.
Right. But I assume there was a population of people who saw it in the sky and knew that it was a Goodyear blimp. I mean, those witnesses weren't interviewed in what I read, but.
Well, I mean, to be fair, it looked nothing like any blimp I've ever seen in the sky.
Yeah. If you leave the videos again and you look like
I'm not saying the most logical explanation is it's definitely a UFO. I'm just saying I could see how you'd want another look.
Oh, I would have been pumped up. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah. Phone is out for sure, just in case.
Definitely. Yeah. Howdy to the chat room. The chat room is filling up. Irrational, Jason, Brooke, what's up? Jade, Margie, Jason, Lee Meller. What's going on, everyone?
Wow.
Braun, Jillian, Jenna Mel, Susie, Shannon, Amanda.
Jason, I think we owe him an email. I also owe him a bottle of honey. But on this UFO, sighting that really wasn't a UFO sighting, is there a bit of confirmation bias? Is that the word I'm looking for? I mean, the term I'm looking for. Like they want to see a UFO. They're probably looking at it and they're like, that UFO says Goodyear. Oh my God. Like,
yeah, that's what they would want us to think.
They're being sarcastic. They know this is the worst year ever.
But it's just so like an alien. Oh wait, you're saying if they really knew? I don't know. I still maintain that I would have been the people spreading the rumors. And I don't even know if I believe in aliens, but that looked like a UFO.
Has anyone seen the Social Dilemma, that documentary on Netflix?
Not yet. It's on the short list. My mom told me to watch it.
It's pretty frightening. That they said I might have to watch it again, but there was like a stat like fake news travels 6 times faster on social media than non-fake news. I'd have to look that up again, but I feel like this is where we're going tonight with this conversation.
Feels like it.
Have you ever shared something so fast that you didn't even fully read it? You're just like, you feel so much about it that you're like, share. And it's so easy now, especially like from Instagram to a story. And then I'm like, you know what? Let me just read that through real quick, see who wrote it. And if this is like ufsightings.com or, CNN or whatever. And I've definitely put stuff up and been like, I'm taking that down. Like that wasn't the best thing to put up. So I believe that. I think we spread it so quick because it's too easy. And it triggers like a reaction, and you want people to react as well with you. So it makes sense to me.
And I think times have changed a little bit with that as we've all kind of become more aware of fake news after the 2016 election. And so I think maybe that was true for me personally before that. I like the headline was obviously still the most important thing. But I think I probably got caught in that trap too. And now I definitely don't, because I really want to make sure. And then I want to make sure that the news article is a reputable source and make sure there are other news articles out there.
Verifying it.
Yeah, exactly what happened. Yeah, what happened tonight with the UFO story. If we had just gone on without trying to verify it, then we'd be talking about this Goodyear blimp.
I'd be calling my parents in New Jersey. Are you there? Mom, answer. Are you okay?
Hey,
no, I know they're fine.
And then people would watch it and be like, holy shit, there are aliens taking over New Jersey.
Yeah. But strategically, like, if it was going to happen, do you think they'd go to New Jersey first? Or do you think that'd be like,
no chili.
They would absolutely go. No, they would go to Wildwood, New Jersey, because they were like, we're just gonna chill out here until the next American Crime Fest happens, because
I like it. Yeah, no, that now that you say it, that makes sense.
Yep. And that's why we call this the Gossip Pod, because we can just go off and say there are aliens over New Jersey, and Joe Biden played NWA for Latino people 2 nights ago. So,
did we see that? We saw that, right? Everyone saw that?
You saw that, so it had to happen.
Oh my gosh, cringe.
Wait, I just want to point out that Jillian says the War of the Worlds radio play was set in New Jersey, which I did not know.
The Orson Welles vehicle.
That's right. But what was that? Is there? Should we hit on that?
Yeah, Lance, tell them what happened.
Well, Joe Biden was presenting to. Was it in? I think it was Florida, right? Was it South Florida? Where was he? I honestly do not know where. Yeah. Anyway, it was a Latin convention, and he came out and he played Despacito, right? Yeah, he played Despacito from his phone. It seemed like it went over well, but you haven't heard about this?
The full Spanish version. And it was just weird because he took his moment at the podium to introduce himself by turning on music and playing it in Spanish. It was just a little cringy for me.
It was a little cringy, but the disinformation campaign started, and Trump tweeted out, "What is this?" And it was a video with doctored audio where he was playing NWA's F the Police.
Oh my God.
Oh, I see. This is interesting because my boss showed me that, and he said that came out from Trump's camp, like the doctored version. And the
doctored version did, yeah.
Right. They altered it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Wanted to make sure that I had that right.
I can't believe I didn't hear about this. And so they admitted they altered it. So it was obviously some kind of political joke.
What's funny is I don't think anyone admitted anything. I think it it was just put out there to the world, and it was just left for everybody to follow up on and say, no, that wasn't NWA. That was Despacito. And
also just felt like a weird use of their time. I don't know.
Really? Yeah, a little bit.
I was just that took a minute to craft a response and poignantly make that statement and put it out. It just feels like, what is everyone doing? Can you focus on getting the job? Can you do it while you're there? It's getting irritating, frankly.
Well, here's some good news. So they have signs of life on Venus. If we're talking, just to pigeon or just shoehorn it back into the UFO topic. Signs of life on Venus. Phosphine gas was found.
Okay.
Yeah, that was an excellent story. Interesting to read. Hopefully, we learn more. But people who are into UFOs are also sort of into their own little cult, aren't they?
There could be a cultic aspect to it. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know enough about it. Although Heaven's Gate certainly wasn't that their whole thing, that this was gonna all happen. This was gonna end with the ship taking them up. So yes, probably the answer would be yes.
Yeah, I mean, I just think there's a lot of kind of culty things going on out there today. I mean, I think politics, you could say it on each and every side out there. It's sort of like a cult kind of mentality. I think any kind of group that sort of bands together, listeners of true crime, even,
people who buy Lululemon leggings. That's
Well,
a cult.
I think there's a difference between a cult and a tribe. And our buddy Jeff can speak to this, like the tribe theory, the tribe mentality, and it's just it's very similar to sports fans. If you're a fan of the Patriots or a fan of the Eagles for whatever reason, then I just had to use that because, well, that's the thing. Like if you're a fan of the Eagles, it takes a very special type of person. So you unite. And it's a united tribe type mentality. I don't know where that line is, Rebecca. Where's the line before the tribe mentality becomes a cult?
Yeah.
I'm so glad you asked, because a week ago I would not have had the answer, but I just interviewed.
I have a sixth sense about these things. Oh,
yeah. So I almost finished this crazy dense book, and I interviewed him. So the major marker and the major difference would be destructive behavior. So there are benign cults that exhibit a lot of the cult behavior, but they're benign because they don't cause destruction, either financially, emotionally, psychologically. And also you're looking for a totalitarian leader. So that's where, let's say, a true crime tribe could turn cult-like if the person and the podcaster, for example, they're following, they refuse to maybe see that they've done something wrong or committed a crime themselves. If that happened, and they were just blindly kept supporting them and wouldn't accept that maybe this person perpetrated a crime, like that could start to become cultic. But it's a fine line. So you're looking for destructive behavior and for one leader kind of having this reign, like always on top, just one person.
Okay, and they're looking for that one person. They need that person to follow, to be the totalitarian dictator. Is dictator the right word, or
no, because a dictator doesn't make you think you have a choice, and I think a cult leader is so much more dangerous because they make you think you have a choice, and this whole conditioning process happens to where people buy in. I mean, most people aren't like, hi, welcome to our cult, like sign up, join, you're never going to leave. It's so much more insidious. They don't know what they're getting into until they're so deeply in. And usually the main leader is kept very behind. It's very Oz, right? It's like behind at the high levels. You don't interact with them a lot. So there's like this team underneath them, and they're the real propagators, and they're the galvanizers and the people expanding the cult and growing it all the time. So there's other people just as powerful, but it's the highest person up there that they're going for. But they think they have a choice. They believe they do.
Well, my brain just went to the Vatican when you said the higher people up there, the highest people up there. Is this how is religion not a cult? How is the Pope not that? How is the Pope not that Wizard of Oz, behind the curtain character?
Well, I think that's a good question. I'm honestly, just a little disclaimer here, I'm just really more than low-key interested in cults. I'm not an expert, so please, everyone, feel free to fact check this. But I did just speak to someone who literally wrote the book on it and is an expert and is in all these documentaries, and he's a source people go to.
We'll have him on our show in a couple of weeks.
Please, he'll make a lot more sense. Actually, let's call him.
We have this fourth box right now, and he's gonna hop on.
Yeah, that would be great. So I guess in the religious sense, there is that leader, there's a priest, there's a pastor, and there's a lot of people in place to protect that ultimate leader, but you have to look at destructive behavior. And again, it gets weird because you can look at something like the Catholic Church and say, well, there has certainly been destructive behavior, but that's criminal. That's actually not in the DNA of the religion. That's like a human failure, a moral failure. So I would say it's not built into the DNA by design of the religious group to cause harm. So that's the distinction. And what Rick Alan Ross told me is that most cults don't really have a spiritual religious aspect. They're spiritual in the sense that they draw seekers and people asking big questions in life, but they're not usually religious. And they're often just about self-improvement and even sales, like multi-level marketing might be more in line with a cult than an actual organized religion. So very, very interesting.
That's an interesting point. Can you elaborate a bit on that? Sales?
Well, like in terms of an MLM, a multi-level marketing format, is your success is dictated by the success of people you bring in as salespeople, and you get part of their sales, and then the people under them get part of their sales. So it's the pyramid scheme. So there are functional MLMs that don't operate that way, and then there are the ones that do. And is that a cult? Because there's finances involved, there's breaking the law involved sometimes, and the corporate level. So he said some MLMs for sure are cults.
And Jen just put a message there in the chat room, which was a topic that you had brought up to us, and we were like, what? What is that? The Vow on HBO.
Oh, God. That's NXIVM, Lance.
Yes. What is this? Tell me all about it.
Okay. Well, I need to just set the tone a little bit, because I was texted today by you guys saying we're going to talk about UFOs. I said, perfect. And then maybe a little NXIVM, and, it's NXIVM capitals. And you're like, what is NXIVM? And I'm like, oh my gosh, Lance doesn't know. So guys, help me out here. The Vow.
Know about it?
Oh my gosh. Okay. I don't want to talk the whole time. So ask questions. I'll give you a little groundwork, and then you ask questions, because
that's what we do.
But I did actually do a talk on this last year in New York.
It's like telling the grass to grow, Rebecca.
Okay. You just do what you do, and stop me if you've heard this before. But NXIVM actually started as a multi-level marketing company. They're based in, I'll give you the real overview. Albany, New York. There's a man named Keith Raniere, self-proclaimed genius. And I think he got his IQ score based on one of those places where you take it online and you pay for it. So it's a little suspect, like nobody's verified genius level, but smart guy for sure. Spoke many languages, played piano. He started a company called Consumer Byline, which did end up being kind of a Ponzi scheme scam, and got shut down, government, IRS, the whole thing. He regrouped, and he was one of these people, like many cult leaders are, that was able to convince other people of his intelligence, emotional maturity. He had the secrets to life, and he's very philosophical. He says many words, but they don't really mean anything. I call it verbal mumbo jumbo. Some people call it like word salad, so he has lots of, and he loved being filmed, so you can watch all his YouTube videos. So he got some people behind him with money, and they started a new program called ESP, which was Executive Success Program. So people signed up to take these courses, and they were expensive, like $5,000, 3-day, 5-day intensives. And it's all this material on how to be a better person at your job, in your relationships, as a parent, in your family, everywhere. It was just self-improvement, like on steroids. And he amassed a major following to this group called which eventually was called NXIVM. It led to having like a compound in Albany where a lot of people ended up moving, but he attracted some kind of like B-level celebrities. So the Vow focuses on a lot of actresses who got involved, like Allison Mack and Sarah Edmondson, lots of people from Battlestar Galactica. And what really ended up kind of blowing up was a super subset of NXIVM called DOS, which is Latin for master over slave. It's like Dominus something, obsequium something. That little group was this master sex slave group. So there was a sex cult, tiny little fraction of this bigger cult. That was called DOS. And they were branding women with this thing, this iron hot thing on their pubic area. And they were told it was going to be this symbol of mountains, air, and wind, or something like an abstract symbol. And it turned out it was a KR, which is Keith Raniere's initials. And if you turned it sideways, it's an A and an M, which is Allison Mack. So Allison Mack was actually, by the end of it, kind of almost next in command. And so these women started getting this brand, and a couple people just blew the whistle at that point. And the FBI was already investigating him, actually. So when women came forward about the branding, it was like, it blew it wide open, and he was arrested in Mexico, where he was hiding out. But he has a group of like 4 or 5 women around him that have basically, their job was to keep him safe, keep the group running, and to fund this. He had 2 women, the Bronfman sisters. They're heirs to the liquor. What's the liquor company? Oh my gosh. Seagram's. Yes. I want to say Seymour's. Seagram's liquor granddaughters were behind this guy, and they put millions. And where their money was really most effective was he got sued everywhere all the time, and just they could fight all these lawsuits. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. We'll pause and let that sink in. And
I do have some questions. I mean, I want to know like how cult leaders get people to follow them. Like I know in that case specifically, it sounds like it was more money driven at some point, but is that true? Or feel free to.
It was money driven in that they had to pay to be part of it. And the program was never ending. And you were always getting the next level, the next sash, right? There were these colored sashes. There was some Scientology similarities. But really, I think what Keith Raniere did and what I think a lot of cult leaders do is they honed in on a vulnerability. And there were men in his group, but he really, I think, preyed on women, this deep kind of insecurity, like, I know I can be more, I just don't know how. And he claimed to have the secret. And I think he met with people that were at a certain season in their life that made them a little bit vulnerable. And I think that's what cult leaders do. I think they convince somebody they possess the thing that person needs, and they're gonna give you the secret. Like it's like this amazing, like me, like I can't believe it. So you feel like, okay, sure, I have to do what? Okay, well, I can do that. That's weird. But then if you start seeing some results, and according to these women, they had some measures of success. You keep going, but you're also part of the tactic is isolation, right? So the deeper in you get, the more you have to remove other people. And that's where he wanted to have people living in groups and in homes together, because the less outside influence, the better. Another thing he did was he wanted women to be really, really thin. So at one point, the subset, the sex cult, really had to monitor all their daily intake and of calories. And they were just really, really, really unhealthy. There's also a secondary plot to this whole story, which is that there's like many missing women from the whole NXIVM, like 20 years of NXIVM being a thing. Or
20 years?
Well, NXIVM's probably it's early 2000s. So we're getting close to 20 years. But prior to that, he was doing other things. So there's a mysterious suicide, there is a mysterious death, there's a disappearance, and they all do have links to this group. So that's like a whole other story that's barely been, they're investigated, but it's not even as well known as the cult itself. So it's wild, but it's like self-help new age guru stuff, just ramped up to the highest level.
But isn't it just disguised as that to attract people who are actually looking for themselves?
Yes.
And so the intentions by this Rick guy,
Keith Raniere,
they were always bad. So he knew he was preying on people who were.
I think so. I think in his distorted mind, he probably thought he was being helpful. I think he's got some, I would love to hear Dr. Schuyler or Scott, if they're here, or any psychological person, talk about the profile of this person. I've got to think there's some psychopathy or narcissism at the very minimum. I bet he was thinking he really was like God's gift to the world and these women. But yeah, this was a very shady operation, and he very well knew that. The women had to give collateral to be part of this subset. So if I'm already in NXIVM, I'm like years into it, and a girl in NXIVM that I know and trust and would consider one of my closest friends said, hey, there's like this super secret women's empowerment group, that's what they called it, that not everybody here is doing, but I think you'd be perfect for it. I want to tell you, but I can't. It's super secret. It's very exclusive. I really want to tell you, but I can't. And you're like, well, no, tell me. And so she's like, well, you have to give me something so I know you're not going to tell everybody this is happening, because it's a little out of the box. It's a little out there. And you're like, okay, what do you need? And then you're like, well, just tell me one of your dirtiest secrets, or send photos of yourself. Or so people would lie.
So then it's like blackmail.
It's totally blackmail. They called it collateral. I mean, they even used their own term for it, but it's blackmail. So some women made up stories saying like, I cheated on my husband and sent a nude picture, and it wasn't even true, but they just wanted to. So they have that on a file, and that went away. And then they get the information that you can now be in DOS, and it's a super secret society of women. And nobody knew Keith was a part of it, but it turned out the whole basically aha moment for a lot of women was that Keith was actually behind it. And he was watching all the brandings, and he was, orchestrating the entire thing.
Yeah. And Jen here says her partner, who is a psychologist, said NXIVM was almost entirely based on self-hypnosis practices. The cult tech was actually effective. It was actually effective practices.
Yeah, so Nancy Salzman was like kind of the CEO of NXIVM, and I forget who made that comment. She might know what she was a practitioner in, but it was some kind of practice of this like kind of like ESM, but not, where you go back to your childhood and you get out these memories. And she would perform this with the women, and they would have profound experiences. So that was like a core element of it. So women really were, or people, men and women, were having really profound experiences in their personal transformation or growth or understanding of themselves. So I'm not saying they were getting something out of it. I don't think you alter your lifestyle to that extent if you weren't, somewhat receiving something. So yeah, it just keeps getting weirder. That's the thing about it, is just when I think I've read everything or heard everything, I'll hear something else. And he really blew up a lot of people's lives, and it's all coming out now.
Well, she also says that it is the same practices as the same self-hypnosis practices as what's in The Secret. I've never read The Secret.
Interesting.
I've heard people like rave about The Secret and say you have to read it. I had my hands on it once in a bookstore, I think, and I was like, I don't know. Because there's another group of people who are like, yeah, don't even touch that book.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of think of it as like a cliche, that book, and no disrespect if it's worked for you. I don't really know what even the premise is, but anything that tells me like it is The Secret, I'm just naturally going to be super skeptical.
The law of attraction is what it's about. If you, think abundance.
What you put out.
Yes, exactly. That's basically all it is. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we all just saved $24.95. Yeah, I don't know. So that's Keith, and they all went to trial. What's interesting, what I find really, Keith Raniere is in a holding cell in Brooklyn awaiting sentencing. He was convicted on all charges from fraud to sex trafficking. Also, there was what he did with the women in the photos was sex trafficking, but there were minors being trafficked in his home in Albany, illegal residents, illegal. Got the mom kind of drinking the Kool-Aid, and the girl was like literally locked up, and it's a really bad story. But yeah, so it's dark. It's really not like a benign. This is where you see destruction versus a benign kind of self-help thing where you're like, well, I'm out 10 grand and my life's not any better, but oh well. This was not that. This is like very, very damaging.
Did anybody try to escape?
Yeah, well, if you wanted to leave, you could leave at any time. That's the thing. I don't know about the
you
young
could leave
girl.
at any time.
Yeah, you would get a lot of pushback and resistance, and a lot of what we're seeing in the vow is women would say they wanted to go, or they're having some red flags or concerns, and they're like, "That's just your fear talking. You always do this. This is your pattern. You get so close, and then you quit, and you're scared." And they're like, "That's true. I do that." And so it kept a lot of people there. Which is just, but they again make you feel like you have the agency to leave. Nobody had handcuffs on them except I think these minor girls, which holy shit. But
wow,
the adults were able to go. A lot were married and had children, and their husband, they were spouses in the program together. But when this woman got branded, her husband like flipped out, and that's kind of when it started tumbling, the DOS part. And what's interesting about the vow on HBO, it exists. The footage. There is incredible footage of meetings and retreats and conventions, because one of the most successful members was a documentary maker, and he had bought in fully. I mean, he'd given up his life to follow Keith Raniere and learn of his ways. So he just followed him with a camera, but he ended up being a whistleblower, but he has all the footage. So he sold that to HBO. And so this documentary is like, the source material is as intimate as it gets. This is not just people sitting down and talking into a camera like, this is my experience. It's, you watch it, and I mean, is anybody watching it? It's like chills. It's hard to watch, but I also can't stop watching.
Jason in the chat room is no. Jen has seen it, I guess. No, I have not.
Yeah, it is incredible. It's HBO. And they're rreleasing it week by week, one episode at a time, which is like, how dare they?
What is this?
How
what is
dare
this? 2001?
Seriously.
Yeah, was this 1954?
Honestly.
What is this? 1822?
Any year before 2020, all work. Yeah. But yeah, they're making us wait for it. So episode 4 was just out last Sunday, and there's 9 parts. So
no kidding.
It's a good one, man. It's so good.
I'm really interested in this because of the leader aspect from Charlie Manson to David Koresh. I forgot the name of the guy who is the Scientology guy, Musgrove. David Musgrove, is that his name? I
don't think so. It's
Miscavige you're talking about.
Miscavige, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
So
L. Ron Hubbard started it, but
Hubbard,
yeah,
I'm thinking of, right.
But that the Miscavige is like taken over. He's like, he doesn't even look human. He's just this like ball of
that's
like,
their goal.
White energy that's just like running around on stage. But it really fascinates me because it comes across as like they have all of this compassion. They're so full of compassion.
The
right?
leader?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Everything Keith talks about is, wouldn't it be beautiful if, and imagine a world where, I mean, it's like, it's nauseating. I actually find that like super unattractive and unappealing. I'm like, that's such a weird, I want the world to be a better place, but who really sits around and talks like that? Like, he doesn't do a lot, but he says a lot, and it's kind of gross. And what I think is very interesting and speaks to maybe his narcissism is he would not plead guilty. Every woman that had charges against her pled guilty to avoid a harsher sentence and to hopefully get deals. And they're all working on those right now, but Keith wouldn't. And so he is maintaining innocence and waiting for sentencing. And, from who I'm talking to, that is not going to work in his favor, as any true crime person would know. And I think he's going to spend a really long time in prison, possibly a life sentence. Like,
I would hope so.
And that, yeah. So, there's also women who are dancing outside the prison to support him. But anyway.
These are very dangerous people. Like, this is
no, they can't be out here. Like, no.
So how did I miss it? How did Allison Mack, the actress, get involved with this?
Someone invited her. Another actress invited her. And what's crazy is anyone who's watching on episode 4, they showed the moment where Allison Mack met Keith Raniere. And anyone who's following NXIVM knows right now, she became like the superstar, the face of it, and the leader of DOS. Like, there's audio of her and Keith having the conversation about the brand, what it will look like, what the ceremony will be. But she started out like everybody. She went to their middle of the night volleyball game. If that's not a red flag, I don't know what is. And
I got one coming up in like 2.5 hours.
Don't go. Do not go. Save
Tim's
yourself.
hosting it.
What are you talking about? Midnight volleyball. Come on.
Midnight volleyball's
No, it was like middle of the night. Like, it's so weird, right? So she goes to that, and you see this footage when she first meets Keith, and she looks like her eyes are glazed over. And she wanted to move ahead in her career, and she wasn't. And she always felt like she was made for more. And, she wasn't finding that. And, she asked him to do an EM on her, which is their term for, what is the...
bullshit, I think.
Yeah, it's like educational module, but it's not educational module. Somebody's going to come up with it, but it's their process. She's like, could you EM me right now? Because she'd heard about it. And he's like, that's not really how I do it, but we've already kind of done it a little bit. He doesn't just like do it on the spot. It was really, you felt like you were watching something. It just had like warning signs all over it. It did not look right. And that's how she got involved. She was enamored with him, I think. And if you could see him, like, he's no Tim or Lance, let me tell you.
Well, I mean, I'm enamored with John Lorden. But if John Lorden asked me to play volleyball at midnight, I would.
You'd say,
I definitely would. Yeah, where? And
you'd say,
do you have the balls?
There's nobody that could ask me that I would say yes to. Not my husband, not my firstborn, like nobody.
Do you not
want John Lorden's right up there?
Yeah. Volleyball is a lot of fun.
I mean, if Val Kilmer came up to me and said, let's hit the beach, take our shirts off, grease up, and play some midnight volleyball, I'm there.
Now we're talking. Okay, just made an exception. Just to see that.
Val Kilmer in 86, I mean.
Yeah, please.
But what is it, though, to make a cult leader? And then this makes me think that there are potentially a bunch of these kind of people just waiting out there. Because I think it's got to be the perfect storm, right? Like, it has to just come together for this situation. Upbringing, like personality, and then like this person's situation has to really, like, I feel like that might be the most rare part of this whole.
Yeah, I think it's a numbers game too, which is why I think cults proselytize and go out to attract new members, because there's always people leaving cults. I think, that's something, the guest that I just talked to, one of his jobs is deprogramming and doing interventions. So family members will call him and they bring in a member of a family who's in a cult, and his job is to help bring them out. So people are always leaving. So it's a numbers thing. The more people you can latch onto and get in and get through some of the process, the better. And yeah, it's like this confluence of crazy circumstances, the right person at the right time or wrong time. But
Jade had a pretty good question. She asked Dr. Shiloh, how does this fall into the dark triad that we've talked about?
That is a great question.
Yeah, which is, does Dr. Shiloh want to pop on?
Yeah,
come on, girl.
Traffic.
Let's open up this this fourth box here for the.
She's eating.
She's eating. Well, I was eating too, but I threw it all on the floor right before.
Yeah.
This is interesting because Shannon just said Keith was extremely well spoken, and I actually didn't find that. I think he used a lot of words, but that's interesting you say that, and I'd like to hear why you thought more of that. Maybe it's because we have the hindsight of knowing he was such a bullshitter that I don't trust his words. Maybe if I were there, I would have absorbed them differently. And I will say, and I don't want to disparage victims of cults, because to be really honest with you, I think there's a time in my life that I might have said yes to an invitation to like an ESP seminar. Like, I really do. I don't think, and I think a lot of women, if they're honest, or a lot of people would have maybe gone to that first one. What happened after that, I think really depends on your reaction to it and all of that. But the way they sell it was really appealing. And if you're someone who is always kind of wanting big things for your life, I could see you saying yes. And then you hear him speak and it might resonate with you. Maybe it's because I know what he did that I don't hear that. So I just thought that was interesting. But
yeah.
I
mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with being spiritual and trying to express yourself in certain ways. There are a lot of groups out there. Most of them are not run by narcissistic cult leaders. But yeah, I mean, it does. Or you're making.
I'm thinking.
You think maybe?
Well, no, I don't think they're cult leaders, but I think we've had another conversation where I've told you, like, celebrity culture and movie stars have some of the same attributes and the same fandom around them, that appeal, that charisma. There is something to it. And I felt really validated because Rick Allen Ross, the guy I was talking to, said, is Steve Jobs a cult leader? No, but he's somehow convinced, millions of us to put a lot of money into refurbishing our products all the time and replacing them. Like, there is a cult following around his product and his work. So it's interesting. I think there's some common characteristics that can go to places that aren't destructive, but you could find them in like a really successful CEO or movie star and a cult leader.
I agree.
Yeah.
There's a lot of the same qualities.
Yeah.
Well, it's very interesting that you brought up Steve Jobs and how he convinced us to need something that we never knew existed, a year ago. And now it's like, how can I live without this? Right. I feel like, and then it also reminded me when you said that you would have done, what is it, the EVP, or what is it, the
Executive Success Program, ESP.
ESP. Yeah. Well, I feel like everybody needs some sort of validation, and I feel like social media is a bit of a cult as well, because they figured out a way where they can time the likes of something. You can get the notifications that have been systematically delivered to your devices, so you can go through your day getting this consistent injection of validation, this sort of slow drip of validation, and that is very cult-like to me as well. I'm not saying anything against social media or anything, but
no, they can be used really, really badly. Look at QAnon.
QAnon,
we talked about QAnon. What we need to know is if QAnon is a real entity or just a made up like thing. But if that very well, that's a cult. Like
QAnon. Sorry.
Yeah, but there's nothing about it. It's disgusting.
It's destructive.
Well, it's a few people that, I mean, this is just my theory, because I don't think it's
Q.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it was a few people that just saw something take off like wildfire, and they're now realizing how easy it is to just put something out there and watch it spread. And that's part of that doc that you were talking about, Tim, right?
Yeah. It's a lot
That's
about
scary.
that. Not too much about QAnon specifically, a little bit,
but just about like the false the false or the false headlines that can be put out there, the false accounts that can be put out there, and how fast that spreads.
Yeah, faster than true news.
Yeah. Because what is that? Is it because like people want to see the train wreck?
No, through social media, I think specifically. I think maybe there's something about the story being like close to something you believe. You know what I mean? And so it like affirms your belief, and then you just immediately share it or like it because that.
Like the UFO thing.
Exactly. Yeah. It's triggering a strong reaction, and then you have to bring more people into it. And it goes back to the confirmation bias. I mean, everything QAnon is saying is confirming what other people believe.
Yes. But it's so bonkers. What's up, Jillian?
So bonkers. Hey.
Jillian's in the house. I almost said bonkers is in the house.
She's already here.
I know, Michelle. I haven't had my haircut since like January. It's really bad. But I was just thinking, do you guys think we're going to see more people joining cults after everything that's gone on this year? Because you have so many people that are so isolated and disconnected and just sitting at home all the time. They're going to be looking for that like group to belong to.
Such a good question.
I feel like everything's becoming more divisive, especially when last few elections have rolled around. It really feels like that. So yeah, kind of. I never felt like that before, though. You know, before
I've never felt like that before either. I'll be shocked if after November we're not walking around in a burning dystopian wasteland. That I'm fully expecting that. I'm fully expecting there to be cults on every street corner and fires burning out of garbage cans in the winter.
No matter which way the election goes.
What was that?
No matter which way the election goes, you think that's going to happen?
I feel like it's just going to be fires and
yeah. I am really scared for that day. I feel that
hellstorms.
I think that's such a good question.
Brimstone. Thank you, Shannon. Fire and brimstone.
I wonder too if like what Tim was saying, people are finding comfort because everything's so polarized and divisive right now. It's so comforting to people who think like you. So you're going to find them. And I think we're seeing that in the benign ways of like social media tribes and politically. But yeah, I do wonder about cults, but I do think cults also use like very on the ground tactics. And like a lot of what they do is so in person that I wonder how they're having to adapt their strategy to like everybody for pandemic.
Zoom meetings.
Say it again?
We'll just have Zoom meetings.
Yeah, I know, but exactly. I know. So that would be interesting because I've been approached. I think I told you guys this once. I've been approached by what I think is a cult. And I asked this man, because I did tell him the name because I didn't want to say the name in case they weren't a cult. And he verified they are a very active cult. And they have a huge presence in New York City and New Jersey. I've been approached by them 2 times in real life, but then they found me on Instagram, which I thought was really interesting to your point. And they messaged me and invited me to a Bible study via my Instagram. And I did not give them my handle. I don't think I gave them my name. So it could just be, again, lots of people putting it out there just broadly, maybe not connected to those people, but very scary. And he said it's one of the fastest growing cults in the world, and that they target college and post-grad. So I was like, oh, really? I was like, I should have said yes. Like, that's amazing. But yeah, they're like going for younger people because they want, to rise up and stay for a long time.
Well, so I lived in the city like 10 years ago, and you had all these people that thought the world was going to end in like 2011 or 2012. Every time you went in the subway, there'd be, them handing out flyers. That kind of stuff could move online so easily.
True. We just saw that in July, right? Because Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell said July something 2020 was it. And there were 144,000 people and they were going up and everyone else was screwed. And then obviously the day came and went. And what this man, Rick, told me was that cult leaders get around that by saying, well, God just told me the date has changed. We're safe for now. There's more work to do. We have a new mission. And people eat it up.
That's what Lance says when he's like, Tim, God told me that today's not the day to do this intro, to record this intro.
No.
We gotta do it tomorrow instead.
Yeah. And your life depends on it. So
Oh
no wrong answers.
It was fine for me. I mean, if God's really talking to you about that, I mean, that's really compelling.
Yeah.
If not, you could just tell me that you just want to do it tomorrow instead.
Yeah. If I had 1 minute with God, I would hope he would tell me what time I should record my intro. That's really important.
He comes to me periodically. Typically when I'm hungry or I have some errands to run. God will come to me and tell me that we should probably postpone the intro until tomorrow, during a time that I don't have errands to run. But it's not common. It's not common.
As long as you know.
Yeah.
But go ahead. Well, I just honestly, this QAnon thing is one of the most annoying things to me in the land right now. And you see it sometimes with these Karen and Kevin videos too out there that I'm like completely fascinated by. We've texted a little bit with Dr. Shiloh and Dr. Scott about this, but like, what is that? This too. This plays into all this because this is a little cult that has developed. Like I was watching one today. There's like 10 people marching through a Target. There,
yes. I just sent that to Michelle. If it's not the same one, young people.
An anti-mask parade through a Target.
Yeah.
So
lovely.
That video felt off to me. Like it felt like they were doing it just like not because they really believe it. They just wanted to cause a scene and have people sharing their video. You know what I mean? Like it didn't.
Yeah, which is equally problematic.
Yeah, which is just bad, but it's like a different kind of thing than truly believing what you're saying and marching around like that.
Okay.
100%. 100% agree with you, because you know what it is? It's such an easy thing to protest. The non-mask wearing thing. It's such an easy protest. You don't really have to do anything. You just have to say, I'm not wearing a mask. Why? It's taking away my liberties, my rights. And that's all you have to do. It's not like anyone's organizing the Million Man March on Washington. They're just marching through Target because they know they hit social media.
No, but there is some organization of it. Like if you watch a lot of those people will say the same kind of thing. They will say, "No, you can't tell me that. You're going to get a $75,000 fine. You're going to get fined $75,000. That's for real. You can't. Don't come near me. Don't They all do these. It's like the exact script that they follow.
Yeah, because it's easy.
That was an audition for it, Kevin.
Yeah. I saw that on some shaky camera phone video. You see the guy who punched a waitress because he had his pants hanging down like almost to his crotch. He had no shirt on. He was talking about the Nazi party and he was talking about not wearing a mask, and the hostess or a waitress came up to him and as he was being escorted out, and he just winds up and punches her in the face.
Oh, my God.
I mean, he proceeded to get his ass kicked after he wasn't getting out of that restaurant, but I mean, it's so easy to protest like that. If you don't have the mental wherewithal to understand what the world's about at any given time, you can just say anything and do anything. It's ridiculous.
It is so interesting that the QAnon is so political and that the mask conversation is so political that somehow this pandemic and COVID-19 has revealed this kind of fundamental. I've always understood the core differences between a Democrat and a Republican, but this has gone this like transcends that to such a point that everything is political, including an illness, a virus. It's just so weird that if someone's not wearing a mask, where they fall politically. I mean, that's just the truth, and I think that's really weird. Am I wrong? Are there
No, it's totally right.
Hardcore Democrats not wearing a mask and being like going off at Target? I don't think so. And I'm not even trying to make this, I'm sorry. I'm just saying, I think it's really weird.
It is weird. It's
interesting.
Problematic. Yeah. The whole thing's become, choose your cult.
I don't understand it. And now I feel like I've offended people because I'm sure there's Republicans wearing masks. Let me backtrack.
Oh, yeah, of course.
I'm sure I'm related to some too. So let me be clear. They're probably, but I just mean if they're not wearing a mask and they're mouthing off about it, like you can just make every assumption about it politically and be right.
Brock just said he wore his mask the other day. He wore his mask the other day while watching Cher's movie Mask.
That's so meta.
So meta.
That's amazing. This Halloween's going to be crazy for so many reasons, including the fact that we're already all wearing masks.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of people out there.
I don't know. I mean, I would like to look at the statistics of. I love my family, but certain members of my family have said, if you walked into a bank wearing just a face mask, before all this, you'd be told to get right out of there. Like, well, fucking obviously.
Right.
Obviously, like if you walked into a bank wearing a mask, yes, they're probably going to tell you to take the mask off. But I would like to see the statistics on how many people have gone into a bank and taken advantage of this situation and worn a mask and robbed it. I guarantee you, it's probably on like one hand I could count that, right?
I'm sure.
Who robs banks anymore in person other than Joe Gibbons?
Right.
No, it's
ridiculous.
True.
I mean, everybody's required to wear a mask. It's not like you're going in there with like, your ski mask on and a backpack that looks like you've got a shotgun in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's wild.
I also feel like a lot of the QAnon thing is projection, and I have nothing to back this up, but I feel like there's something at play where some of these people are like, child porn, I'm fighting against child porn, but they're actually like a part of that. They're actually doing that. Did anyone get any feelings about that?
I don't know about them. What do you mean by doing it? I don't think they're helping the cause.
The opposite of what they're preaching. I'm talking about.
Like they're making child porn, or they're partaking in child porn.
Sure, yeah, distribute.
Partaking at least. We would say they're partaking at least, like on the bare minimum. They're partaking in the consumption of child pornography.
And that's just an example. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's interesting. I don't know. I just think it's a major pulling of focus from dedicated people who are working quietly because it's like serious work. There are advocates and front-facing people, but that work is like slow and very behind the scenes. And this just, to me, like pulls so much focus away from people actually doing that. But I never thought about that. Is that the weird impulse? Like we're afraid of what I don't know. That's weird. That's interesting.
I hope that all the people that are like posting about child trafficking and child porn these days are not actually a part of it, because that would be really scary.
Yeah.
Not all of them.
Yeah.
I know my Facebook feed lately is just all garbage about child trafficking and child porn and all this stuff that's not even real. And they have nothing to back it up. There are all these fake news stories. And it wasn't always like that. Like, it just seems like, I don't know if it started with QAnon or with Pizzagate, but everybody all of a sudden is obsessed with like child trafficking and all these things. And they don't even understand what it really is.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did the Pizzagate thing start? Was that QAnon as well?
That's like pre-QAnon.
Right. Okay.
But I think a lot of the people that are like getting into this now and posting these like fake stories about kids being trafficked and all this stuff probably don't know what QAnon is, right? It's just sort of grown out of that.
They're just hearing it and like jumping on.
Yeah.
So Ryan said that is it Alex Jones that started the Pizzagate?
Oh, I think he's right.
Yeah, that does sound familiar.
Yeah, the Wayfair thing. They're the ones that blew the Wayfair thing up. I mean, do you remember that when they were saying Wayfair was trafficking children through their furniture sales?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is all really bad because when there are this is like the boy who cried wolf. Like when there is this situation actually happening now, people aren't gonna necessarily. I mean, obviously that's something you got to take seriously no matter what. But
and it is happening.
Yeah, I mean, you might seem like a conspiracy theorist too if you're calling, you're saying, "Hey, wait a second, this person who's saying they're reporting all these child porn accounts and people and who are trafficking is actually behind some of it." You're gonna look crazy.
Yeah, that's the gaslighting element of the whole thing. It's
absolutely
massive gaslighting.
Yeah.
There was a very long article last week or the week before about that. You know, the marshals, they had the headlines were that it was like a big takedown of this child trafficking ring. They didn't get it quite right. It was, you know, activities that had gone on over 2 weeks, really. So this article broke down all these individual cases and who these kids were. And, you know, most of them were runaways. One of them was wanted for murder. But they're all of these like really complicated situations of kids that have been in foster care. And, you know, do you put them back in foster care where they're going to run away and become homeless again? And, you know, all of the really complicated details, and nobody's really talking about that. Everybody's just like, oh my God, all these kids are being sex trafficked, when it's much more complicated than that.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can find it.
I would love to read that.
But it's so easy to put it all in one package, you know, to put a bow on it and say, we got them all. They were all being trafficked through this one house and we shut it down and now we're going to move on to the next case. But the nuances are what you're talking about. And that's something that I don't know if people, it's either they don't have the energy or they don't have the attention span to look into it any further, or the desire
It's
to.
a disturbing topic. People don't want to look into that too. I think that's part of it.
That's a good point.
Answers. People want an answer, right? And so maybe that's like the whole kind of thread to the whole conversation is people are willing to accept something because it's a definitive, or they want to accept it as a definitive instead of living in the mystery or the gray. Like Michelle was saying, it's so much more, these cases are more complicated. Like that requires energy and bandwidth and looking into something. So it's easier to just say it's this or that. And so maybe that's part of the cult.
And there's also a little bit of an element, if you start talking about who these kids really are, like, you know, they're not John Benet Ramsey, you know, they come from broken homes. A lot of them have drug problems. They have a lot of issues that need to be dealt with, and nobody wants to talk about that kind of stuff because it's not, you know, it's not pretty.
Yeah, no, they're so on the margins already. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And what does that tell you that they don't like? Why don't they want to talk about that? Is that just because it identifies a section of the population that they don't want to admit exists? Because then it's a responsibility on them?
Yes. Yeah. In my opinion, yes.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, this is something Michelle and I talk about all the time with social media. And when you're, you know, posting about missing person cases, how honest can you be? You know, you want to put important information out there, but you still want people to be sympathetic. So you have to find that balance. Because if you're too honest about some people, then people stop caring.
Yep.
But
there's life on Venus.
Something to look forward to.
Show.
We can all move there.
We can all move to the 3 square miles on Venus that isn't on fire.
We'll just anoint one supreme leader, and then we'll be all set. That person will rule it all, and we won't have to worry. We can trust that person because we know their hopes will be after our, you know, benefits too.
Right. Yeah. And it'll be John Lorden.
I'm in.
Obviously. John. Well, Pan, he'll take the pot off his head, and it'll be John Lorden.
Well, this has been a spirited conversation.
Oh my goodness!
Oh my God!
Has passed us by already.
Wait, so there was no trafficking bust in Georgia?
No, not in the way that like the original stories made it sound. I mean, the marshals did really good work. It was not that they did nothing. Yeah. But it was, you know, 39 individual cases, and then a lot of the I don't know if it was headlines or just social media posts were talking about like a trailer somewhere where all these kids were. That was just total garbage. There was no trailer.
Yeah. I'm texting Art Roderick right now, Jillian, and I'm letting him know that you're making disparaging remarks against his organization, the U.S. Marshal Service.
No. Yeah, I mean, it was a complicated operation. They worked with local police. They got a lot of things done, but it wasn't this, you know, kind of like Law and Order moment where they busted into a trailer and rescued all these kids.
God damn Law and Order.
I know.
Making us think that that's how the world works.
Right? I know. I wonder, like, when will that like finally be canceled? Which I'm not saying I'm advocating because I'm a huge fan of SVU, but I mean, I do think people are starting to poke some holes in the Law and Order formula.
It's been like 35 years.
Like, leave people wanting more. It's like
Very
I don't know.
They need to go back to their roots, like the original, like first few seasons of Law and Order.
Yeah.
So much better because they weren't crazy.
Yeah. They got. Oh, there's a Law and Order SVU episode based on DOS and NXIVM.
Oh, really? That's
Yeah.
I like how they base things off real
Yeah, that's
times.
Ripped
That's
from the
fine.
headlines.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
But sometimes the timing is real, and maybe it seems fake. But we're gonna have a guest on pretty soon, and we've been in talks with her, who was actually abducted, and it had escaped. Was actually saved by federal agents after being kidnapped for 4 days.
Oh my gosh.
But then she went on to be an extraordinary advocate and on many levels, not just for children's safety, but passing bills that just lead up to, like peripherally surrounding children's safety. It's amazing person.
Yeah.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe that's enough of a tease. I don't know. We haven't recorded it yet, but it's coming soon, hopefully. Been in talks trying to schedule this, but it's coming very soon.
That's exciting.
Yeah, that'll be pretty interesting. Well, thank you everybody for joining us here tonight.
No, Jason, we did not get her from her. No, she wasn't on Rebecca's show, was she?
Not yet.
Well, we got to get her before she gets on Rebecca's show.
That you know of.
Yeah. I know, right? Well, thank you so much, everybody. This has been a delight.
It's fun.
Yeah, a blast.
Mm-hmm. As they say, what do Karen and Georgia say? You're in a cult. Call your dad. It's wise words.
Those are wise words. And how big does everyone in the chat room think that dialogue sign is behind Rebecca? It's got to be like 3 feet, right?
It's huge. It's like half the size of the door.
It's half the size of the door. Yeah.
Yeah, proportionally. And that guitar is huge. It's a bass, actually.
Oh, I wanted you to take the guitar and just like pluck it out of your hair.
I'm gonna
be like that big.
Smash it.
Yeah. Well, we started off with UFOs and we went all the way through cults, and then we ended up talking about child trafficking. Wow. Yet another night. See what you get here. See what you get here on the Get Vocals.
Oh, what a night.
Oh, what a night.
Thanks, everybody.
This was fun.
Yes, we will see you next week.
Thank you.